there's some business opportunities in those yellow areas that might be overwhelmed by this decision. Is that what I'm?
And density as well. Density setbacks in R1 delay.
I mean, I think of those shotguns. There's some that are not in the best state along A, but they're incredible. And there's some, I believe that's Gadsden and De Villiers, maybe. Those incredible examples of shotgun homes you would never see in R1 AA. They just don't get built because of the setbacks and the restrictions. So,
And
I mean,
simultaneously, we've had an increase buying along Chase and Gregory to the west because people see that as a safe residential space. I mean, and there are some additional ones that are about to go into contract because people perceive that's where the residential part of Belmont is. If you want the funky urban area, go up here closer to the core, and between the core and downtown it's kind of mixed. So we end up with kind of an option for everybody somewhere there in the neighborhood. What the RNC does is open all of those who thought they were buying in a residential area into having whatever vacancies or sales come up end up being possibly commercial in the interim. And that's why I was asking a timeline, because over the course of 9 or 10 months, quite a few people might suddenly see the opportunity in Belmont that they heretofore have not.
Well, and I do agree. I do agree with the sense of urgency, just from the volume of calls we're getting on the property that's listed, out there. So, another idea to throw out is the map that you're looking at. Would that be something to adopt in the interim, if we're not comfortable with RNC?
And let's, I think what you need to do is also look at what, we're talking about density, we're talking about setbacks. You could do something that creates a zone for Belmont that does change some of those setbacks and keeps the RAA. For example, RNC has 35 units per acre. Is that the type of density that you're envisioning? R1 AA has 17.4 units, which is fairly dense.
It depends on the area.
So
it's almost like you have to take it piece by piece.
yeah, well, we can't do it piece by piece. We'll never get there. So,
Okay, but there are many more tools. It works together. For example, RNC currently can only build 4,000 square foot of commercial, right, Brandy? So you could have, and so that alone starts preventing Target and Walmart, and
But I think
exaggerating maybe, from coming in there. Then you got a mixed parking, right? So you may have something that RNC would allow it to happen. Maybe they combine properties and maybe they come to us and get a variance for more than 4,000 square feet, but yet there's still not enough parking to meet city requirements.
Right.
So it really all works together, and so I hopefully I would, maybe the first baby step is to just say to future land use map or not, because that's a big hurdle
Yes.
that we need to.
Now, let me, if I can interject something. I threw that out, thank goodness, because it got you talking about what people already understand. Now, but the reality is, we've had several people here who, because of the meeting, our putting the word out, they are here to speak for themselves. I think the reality is that we need to have another meeting in order to expedite this, as you're wanting us to. We need to call another meeting, and you're going to have more of the property owners show up. They will then think about it more, because now they're seeing what's actually being discussed. They will reflect back on the discussions they've had before, so that we can go ahead and solidify one or the other as a basis to work from.
And
Well,
to tag off of that as well, I'd like to also say that, some of the conversations you may not really know what you want until you sit down with planning staff and work out all the numbers for how you want to develop your property, what your setbacks are, what stormwater, some of those conversations. So, feel free to stop by and let's have those conversations if you feel like you need to before you can really, provide input on it, on what you want.
I'm
And I don't-
really new to, I haven't been involved with this. I just own property there, and I've kind of been pretty much out of the loop. But, the majority of downtown Pensacola is commercial. There's residential to the east side of it, in the downtown core, and there's a huge lack of housing in residential downtown. Why would we want to start destroying more residential, and maybe I'm missing the point, but limit the, residential use close to the downtown core where everybody wants to be now. That's the hot spot.
Yeah, well, no,
If
all
you're
of,
not a beach person, you wanna be downtown.
yeah, well,
You know,
if it's,
and this is one of the closest old residential areas that are, with some great old homes and some great properties. So why would you all of a sudden want to start adding in, large commercial developments, which we're already doing, quite a bit's going on in downtown area? Am I missing it?
Well, a footnote is, let me just share this statement. The idea is that this neighborhood will contribute heavily to the residential.
Okay.
That's understood.
'Cause I'm looking at it for the
Right.
first time.
Now, for a lot of the private owners, they wanted the opportunity to do residential, but they also wanted to have the opportunity to do a little commercial.
You mean like a home business?
Like a home
We
business,
always had home business.
well,
That
but,
in any residential district.
right, but, see,
I mean, what they did.
of the zoning of old residential neighborhood commercial basically opened that. Now, what became a reality is that even though you may have wanted to do a large development, it wouldn't happen here. Why? Because your next door neighbors, 9 times out of 10, would not sell, knowing that that's what you wanted to do. The guidelines restricted you on doing a large commercial development, so it was, as the terminology called, neighborhood commercial. Someone wanted to have a home business, or if they wanted to have this lot that they lived in and the lot next door was a business, they had the option to do that. If they wanted to do multifamily, whether it was a duplex or whether they wanted to build a couple of units, they had the option to do that. Now,
I have a fourplex.
right, they wanted the ability to do that. Residential neighborhood commercial opened the door and leeway to do that a lot more lenient than a, back in the day, R1A or R2A or something like that. Now, do we want residential? By all means, okay? And that's what's been talked about for the longest. But there have been a number of property owners that wanted the option to be able to do a little commercial. So this little mixed-use area basically allowed that. It was a mixture of residential, a mixture of commercial. Not heavy. We don't want the Walmarts. We don't want the large grocery stores. We don't want that. Now, a little neighborhood shop, people want that. They can pop in and out. Something a block or two away, they can go and have a meal. If they want to have a small business, they're working hand in hand with some others.
Well, that's what I thought this whole core area where, Five Sisters and, all that development has been, that 4-block area.
Right.
I thought that was the Belmont Villas commercial.
That is that is the commercial
That's
core.
such a small area.
It's a small area, right.
That's a big
And
commercial
De
district.
Villiers and Gregory. and
Right,
Pearl.
and the villas,
Yeah. Well, I
people,
can definitely see on Garden.
yeah, people wanted to have a few things, be able to expand north and south on the villas. But tucked back within the area, people may want to have a little sewing center, or they may have, guy sells insurance, he's having a home business. Yeah, those things are minor, but
That's totally
the
different
zoning
than like
gave
a
them,
tattoo parlor or a,
those are the things that need to be weaned out. Do we want the ability to have, calm down, John, do they want to have the tattoo parlor and a few other shops?
Does John have a tattoo parlor? Is that-
No, John likes tattoo parlors.
Okay, you like
See,
that.
yeah,
I don't even have tattoos.
Yeah, see, we pick on, that's a neighborhood that we pick on
I
John.
bought my fourplex, the Bunny Club was running hot
Probably
and
so.
heavy,
Mm-hmm.
right down the street. And I can tell you, it was a nightmare in that neighborhood for quite a long time.
Yeah,
And so, envisioning that happening again, or something that's similar to that is not a good thought.
well,
It took years to get that cleaned up to where people would actually come and live there.
And lots of work by the neighborhood
And lots
residents.
of, tons of work by the neighbor, yeah.
right.
Tons.
And those same individuals that did all that work are the ones that need to be at the table speaking up, because I think you're going to find they are in sync with what you're speaking of.
Right.
Because they have worked so hard to get the area cleaned up that now they know people want to live in the area, but there are also a few people who want to work in the area.
Right.
They want to have a mixture of that.
Eddie, I'm compelled to ask you, what about the future land use map would not allow what you just described?
Well, I think from my discussions with some of the current landowners, they wanted to be able to still have an option along A Street. Now, some of them have sold, so they may not be here to speak up for that anymore, okay? You notice on the current land use, it gives us that commercial core, which is what we want. It gives you the density going north and south on the villas, okay? Well, and the individuals, that may disappear now, and I don't have a problem with that. But because of it being A Street, it is recognized as a commercial corridor. But if you drive along A Street, you're going to see a lot of single-family shotgun-style homes. There are some people who are interested in wanting to see that still happen. You know, these are the property owners. So I'm speaking for them, wanting them to speak up for themselves, okay?
Well, it also leaves off, this map leaves off the part of that went on down Belmont 2A. You're talking about, this map leaves off the RNC part of A Street.
Oh, A Street.
It also leaves off my part, which I'm fine with. And
Between
I'm-
the Villiers and A, you mean?
Between the Villiers and A Street of Belmont.
Right.
Which is, on all these maps, part of a corridor, when y'all thought about it in the community meetings. And I'm fine with leaving that off and doing like this map. But I'm against any type of blanket, even temporary, leaving it all RNC, any type of blanket zoning, even if it's temporary. But I'd like to hear what other people say.
Right.
And
I would be in favor of adopting the proposed future land use map if the residential density, the ability to build densely with residential properties was there. I mean, as it is, we don't really have, I don't know, I think about some of these mixed-use projects that I've heard brought forth, and the residential zones that we have would not allow them to do that. And
So,
on the flip side, you would also, if you tried to accommodate that with a commercial zone, you would open up all types of other uses.
and that kind of gets us back to the specialized zoning district, because we would not want to just modify the R1AA specifically for Belmont, and it impacts the whole city.
Right.
That makes sense.
But we could come up with perhaps a Belmont district,
Sure.
a Belmont redevelopment district that maybe, you know, and if you look at the standards for RNC and then R1A, R2A, you can see what the differences are.
Sure.
Greg
Right.
has these around. John, what kind of density are you talking about? Because 17.6, I think is, or 17.4 is what you can do in an R1AA per acre. Are
I
you
mean,
talking about
primarily
more?
I'm thinking of the ADOR development. I mean, that scenario, they were bringing density to our neighborhood.
What
They
was
were
the
bringing
density?
What's the
We
map?
were gonna keep the RNC along the Villiers. With their plan, it would be a commercial, we would even put our business there to start off with, and our other company's business. And then we wanted to keep the Wright Street and maybe a few townhomes, but we were gonna do a little community back there. But it's,
She's looking for a number.
we need to hit a number because there's no
Units
retention,
per
there's no
acre.
stormwater, so we start to climb. And if we are capped on the amount of
how many
houses we
townhomes?
can, we
Is
wanted
it-
how
to
many
do
is it?
17 to
20?
20.
Yeah.
But we're capped at, I believe, like 3 on that Wright Street house, which is 80 by 100 and,
But that's not because of the zoning, that's because of other.
well, no, that's because of the zoning. So then if you spend the amount of money to,
I mean, there
to
are-
build on that, you're gonna drive prices up that's capped. You're in a neighborhood that gets capped.
There are
And their target
retention.
number was exactly what was specified in the plan, which is why we're saying, we really like their level, and that's what the neighborhood asked for, it's just zoning hasn't caught up.
So could we,
And their
could we
portion-
look at going to that map, but modifying the median density portion to be specific to Belmont's wishes for density?
Right, in terms
I would
of,
be in
in
favor
terms
of
of
that.
density,
Something
in
like
terms of
that, yeah.
setbacks, we can modify setbacks, we can modify density,
Lot width, square footage?
yeah, for this redevelopment zone. Belmont de Villiers redevelopment zone. And then you would have the same uses.
I think I like that maybe more so